we? There we go. I think we are, in fact, live. I'm so excited to be here. We are with our MC 4326 Advanced Social Media and Analytics class here in the School of Journalism and Mass Communication at Texas State University. We are back for another semester of our social media shows. This is our 6th iteration of shows. We've had more versions. Like today, we're going to have this wonderful group go, and then we'll be back to back with shows at 12:30. How are you doing, Matilda? Excited to be back?
I'm doing so good. I'm so excited to be back. We had so much fun last semester, and just to get to do it twice a day this semester will be really fun, and I'm super excited. I know we have really great groups coming in and great topics again. So yeah, I'm super excited.
We're so lucky, right? It's just one and then the other, and we have such great groups. And thank you to our class who is joining this morning. Again, our live stream is going to LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitch. If you have problems with one, no problem, just jump over to the other. We're excited to engage with you in the chat. Please feel free to share, comment, all of those great things. We are here with a wonderful team. This is Agency One. They have been all-stars all semester long, so I am very excited to be hitting the ground running with them. We have Donovan, Ryan, Reagan, Marina, and Haley. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Their subject is platforms and publics. We will be talking about everything from how publics are forming on platforms to how anti-publics become part of this conversation. And I did kind of sneak a peek at their show, so I can say with 100% confidence that this is going to be a great show. I'm going to pass it over to Marina, and you can get the ball running. But like Ben just said, it's going to be fire. I agree. This team and this show is going to be amazing. Take it away, Marina.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stewart. Like you said, I'm just so happy to be here. We really worked hard on this show, and it's just a great day to start this show. What we went into this subject, we really kind of wanted to join into that conversation. Like today, we're going to discuss something that really affects almost everybody, whether we believe it or not. It affects our daily lives. Social media platforms and publics that form around those. Every time we open apps like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, even go on TV, we're not just scrolling on random posts. We're really stepping into digital spaces where these communities form conversations and sometimes even conflicts that form around them. These platforms shape how we see the world, what information we encounter, and even how we interact with them in private spaces or even public. And just being human, we kind of form into the question of how do we see social media shifts from simple networks into full-blown platforms that shape culture?
I feel like that's a wonderful question to talk about. It's just how we consume media as well. For my topic, I'm doing the hot topics as well. How we process these informations and everything. It does really shape how we see things and how we even normalize such behaviors, or just how we even process information. I really want to talk about things like the Iranian conflict and how much information and misinformation has been spread about the whole conflict, as well as the spread of AI and everything. Another thing I want to speak about is just the the spread of AI and how everybody is seeing everything. Misinformation is being spread all around, and also the fact that so much information is being spread out that we are becoming kind of desensitized to such matters. Think about a few weeks ago about the Epstein case and how everybody's just spreading information about this, even though we are kind of getting desensitized to the matter of such tragic events, and even how we even process it is just should we use it use the what's it called, I'm so sorry give me 1 second. But yeah, just how information is being spread about, and just how the memification, which is a crazy thing to think about, how we memify such tragic events and even like question like how do these like platforms like change our opinion and how, you know, we process those things as well.
Yeah, of course. Like, even that relates into the question of like, why does this conversation matter right now? It's particularly for young creators, activists, and just like everyday users. Like, how does these hot topics and really like unfortunate events like affect our perspective?
I want to kind of jump in off of some of what Haley was talking about and also answer your question, Marina, which is that I think it's complicated and I think it's messy. And I think it's difficult when we are kind of filtering our entire socialization and networked kind of capacity around these sort of like socio-technical objects that really, and we've talked about this in class, are sort of like pulling attention, whether that attention is good or not. And so oh yeah, we're getting questions in the chat already, but we'll wait on those. But I think it's interesting to see how interwoven sort of like the shaping of culture platforms have become. And when we kind of discuss like, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? I think it's somewhere in the middle, but I don't know if you're familiar with Nancy Bain, but we talked about kind of like the first inaugural issue of Social Media in Society. I think day 1 or day 2 of class, and they put out this really interesting special issue. Well, we're actually now at the 10-year anniversary. So they just put out another special issue where they asked all these authors to reflect back. And Nancy Bain wrote this great article called "How's It Going? It's Bad" or something like that. And so I think it's just really interesting for us to think about like, yeah, like we've created this mess. Now, how do we figure out how to disentangle it or like to retangle it with culture in a more productive way?
Yeah, and Marina, to go back to your question, I think it says a lot that like we've seen social media go so quickly from just people trying to get on there and share their lives to like this huge network of people that, you know, they get that's like their main job is on social media, and like they're making these connections on social media. So I think that's, you know, it's interesting to see how it did go from like a social network where it's just like meant for people to connect. Like we saw when Facebook was started, it was just like a way to get college students, you know, like intermingled and stuff. And now it's gone to like this huge entertainment venue where like people are spreading their news and their like every type of opinion you can find just like on these small apps.
I mean, that's a really good point. I mean, like even like the fact that we used to have like neutral spaces is like no longer like the case. Like everywhere you go, there is some type of division or just, you know, I guess negativity being spread about, and like the whole rise of like anti-publics and like even like these like communities being founded upon like such harsh ideals and everything.
Yeah, of course. Like, because of these like rise of like anti-publics or just like how we form like our opinions, what are like some moments that you realized yourself like shaped in your behaviors or even just how you communicated from these?
I think a lot of the way we talk has been changed. Like, I don't know if it's almost like trendy to like use different words. Like just an example, the word like Riz. People use the word Riz a lot, and it's like I think that started with like streamers and like people on social media using that word, and then like people picked it up and they were like, oh yeah, let's use that word now. So definitely in like the way we speak to each other has changed just through social media.
Yeah, like of course. Going to the chat, Megan had a really good point saying that she thinks that the pandemic caused a real shift shaping these cultures. Social media was where we got most of our social media interaction beyond those you quarantined with. And I completely agree. When we all like shut down, we were all in our homes, we kind of became isolated. And we all kind of, in a sense, became connected, but alone at the same time, where we kind of now out of that quarantine moment, we don't necessarily know how to like socialize in a way. We always kind of pick fun at the kids saying that they don't know how to socialize, or the term iPad kid became a big thing. And that iPad being the modern day pacifier, Whereas I feel like we lost that sense of like humanity and being able to talk with one another, being able to socialize, start a conversation organically.
Yeah, I'll say it's definitely like during COVID, it was definitely like an outlook for a lot of people who, it was a lot of times might have felt lonely. And if you didn't have your family with you, especially like if you lived on your own, like looking at social media it was definitely important to those people who, wanted to continue to have these connections that they couldn't go out and meet people.
I think this is an interesting one because the pandemic was this like interesting moment where we saw A, people were bored and so they started becoming creators, and then B, people had nothing but free time, and so they were kind of propelling these people into stardom. And Manny has a kind of like a funny joke. It feels like a Black Mirror episode with the social number that determines how you treated. That nose, I think it's nose. Do you know which one I'm talking about? Nosebleed, nosedive, maybe? The Black Mirror episode. Yeah. So I think that's really interesting. But you also have a question here. Oh, no, sorry. This one. How do you think this is going to affect our ability to connect in real life? Or is it already?
Yeah, like definitely going back to like my point where we became isolated, it's finding harder to make those connections organically. I feel like hopefully we can, not to discredit all the good that social media has done, where it's connected so many micro communities, very niche communities, and made those people feel belong. So I feel like that was in a way where it helped connect people. Also, like with social media, with those niche groups, it was able to have those meetups in a physical form where they were able to meet face to face. So, yeah.
I think a bit of a negative on that question of how it can affect us in real life. I think a lot of people spend a lot of time inside on their phones and, don't go out and make connections. And then when they do try to make connections, they feel like it's harder. So they go looking back to what they trust in social media, like to help them, whether it's like picking up girls or something. And I think that's where we see a lot of these like red pill streamers like succeeding, is because like there's so many insecure people that are trying to find like ways and like trying to look at other people who are successful and how they interact with people, and then they're trying to use that in their own life. And a lot of times those influencers aren't like always giving out the best advice. It works for them, but it may not work for everyone. But yeah.
To jump off of what Donovan's saying, we also have a loneliness epidemic, and we often hear about like males, but if you look at the numbers, like women are also experiencing a loneliness epidemic. Like we are experiencing a societal wide loneliness epidemic. So I think it's like, it's exactly what Donovan was saying, plus this condition of like people are lonely, filtered with this additional layer of like, we have these socio-technical kind of like systems that are trying to like get people into these like community buckets. So Donovan, anything to add on like the role that, because yeah, like the creators obviously are sharing their opinions, and like sometimes they lack really like validity, because I think largely they're trying to sell products, a lot of these red pill kind of like influencers. But what is the role of the platform in sort of like allowing or enabling or amplifying publics around them? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the most I see it is like on streaming platforms, and I don't know. I don't know if it's the platform itself that can really control that, but definitely like in the people that do understand, like being in the comment section and calling them out for it and being like, hey, this is not the way you should be talking to women, or this is not the way you should be trying to make friends. So I think it's important more so on society to like recognize that these people are not really giving out good advice, and just like help the people that might not really understand that.
Really, really good insights. Sorry, Marina, I see you're about to chat. I'll let you go.
I just say like all these like influencers, they're always marketing a product, not always, but most of the time. And I feel like it's always easy to market to somebody's pain than to give them an actual answer. That's what we see with everything. Like even with AI, it's better to put a band-aid than actually solve it. Whereas we're not going to like the root cause of like our social skill problems or like critical thinking. And it's just kind of like a blanket on top of it where hopefully like we're able to like move forward with that. Benjamin had a good comment saying that I think as a result of all that, social skills have been declining. And in a sense, I agree. I feel like all of us can agree to a sense. Like even in a funny example, in an elevator, when we walk into an elevator, everybody is just on their phone. It's easier to just like nosedive into our phone than to actually start a conversation. Whereas maybe 20 years ago, you kind of had felt the need to talk to somebody. Now that we just have a screen, it's so easy to like disassociate from others.
Yeah, I'll add on to that a little. So even walking around campus today, you'll notice that nobody's really present in what's going on in the real world. They all either have headphones in and are listening to music, or they're looking down at their phones, just scrolling while walking. It's almost like awkward silence isn't a phrase anymore. It's just silence now. Nobody wants to interact with real people. They all just want to do their own thing and just be engulfed in their phones.
Yeah, and I think what this does is it stops like a lot of authentic relationships from forming, because I feel like back in the day you used to be able to, you know, meet a lot more people a lot easier because they weren't so involved in themselves and in their own phones. And so now it's like a lot of, you know, there's a lot of different like apps and dating apps and stuff to meet people, because that's how society has changed, where like people are a lot more immersed and it's harder to just like create connections in the real world. So yeah.
So
100%.
Amani has a question for you based on this really great conversation, especially between you, Reagan, and Donovan. Do you think that disassociation, and I think Marina actually brought that term in as well, from each other has contributed to this culture of hate that's being seen kind of in these environments that we've been discussing?
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead,
think,
Donovan.
you know, the less we interact with each other and the more we're, you know, on our own phones and our own pipelines, you get, you know, introduced to, you know, less diversity, I guess, and you're more, you know, you don't really agree with other people because your phone tells you not to, and so now you're like, kind of, you have your own opinions and you kind of dissociate from people that have different opinions from you because you're so like in on your phone that you start to believe that more than you believe real people that have discussions with you.
Yeah, it's very
Definitely.
much like a us versus them type of mentality that people kind of have been integrating these last couple of years, even like maybe like the last 10 years alone. Just how social media has like kind of became their own niches and everything, and like how everybody's like, well, this side is wrong or this side is wrong, even though like most people like should just meet in the middle. But it's kind of becoming harder because of how divided people are just becoming due to social media and other, you know, means that have been happening last few years alone.
I think with that, it kind of goes in. I read this article by Crystal Abedin, and I just think the way we were talking about like having this like inner circle kind of relates to her idea of refracted publics, where she talks about their like, you know, posts and content that people make online, but only certain people are really meant to understand it. And it's supposed to be this like kind of niche group that if like you're in on it, you understand. But if you see it from the outside, it's like, you know, not easy to decipher. And then there's network publics, which is more of like a broad content creation where everyone can understand it just like the first time you see it. And I'm curious to y'all, do y'all think like this idea of refracted publics are making like online spaces more inclusive or less inclusive? Because it's kind of specific to certain people that go down certain rabbit holes. So you are able to like connect with other people that have gone down those rabbit holes easier. But then people who haven't and aren't in on the inner circle, you might not be able to connect with them as much. So what do y'all think about that?
I'll talk a little bit about this. So going into specifically like the AI videos that have been surfacing all over TikTok, I, for one, saw a video where it was bunny rabbits jumping on a trampoline, and I had no idea it was AI. I thought it was real. So I'm sitting here like, holy cow, why is there a herd of bunnies jumping on a trampoline? And then when I go to the comments and I see everyone talking about, oh, this is AI, this is AI, I felt completely out of the loop. I was like, how am I as a 21-year-old falling for these tricks? And with AI only getting more and more advanced, it's going to become a huge problem for our generation and the generations above us to really on learning what's real and what's not real on social media.
I completely agree. I come from a family who's like really outdoorsy, hunting, and just like scrolling on like my Instagram or TikTok, like as hunters know, like at the deer feeders, you have like deer feeder videos to like see all your bucks or anything like that. And I'm seeing videos of 30-point bucks, and like I'm not believing my own eyes when I've seen and grew up with all these animals. And it's honestly kind of scary where you're not able to differentiate what's real and what's fake, or even just duck hunting in general, where you have like massive ponds of swarms, and knowing about like the conservation and just like weather patterns and flight patterns. And it makes you question yourself of like, oh, is this real or not?
I mean, they're animals and they're cute and they're funny, and like there's bunnies. It's just, you saw the bunnies. There's also bears. The bears jump on the trampoline. I think they get us because they look real, and it's just like, then you go, but like, could a bear jump on that trampoline without bottoming it out? Probably not. But I think this question of like, how do you decide? I think that's becoming harder and harder. Would you agree?
Yeah, like I totally agree. We used to make the jokes about like, oh, grandma and grandpa's going to get scammed because they don't know the difference. Well, we're right there with them where we don't know what's real or what's fake on our own Instagram or TikTok. And so that's where I kind of get scared with the progression of AI. And I hope that we're all aware that it's going to get more like, it's going to get better. And we just have to know what's real or fake at this point.
I'm going to extract this
Definitely.
conversation a little bit from AI, and I'm going to give you an example of the fires that we had, the floods that we had in Kirk County over last summer, where it was really devastating. And like, obviously we were all following what was happening, and it was horrific. But then every so many scrolls, I would get these like cloud seeding posts. So I'm not one for conspiracies, but the platform, Instagram specifically, decided to keep showing me cloud seeding videos. And so this makes me question, like, is that sort of like fringe perspective, to kind of go back to like Reagan's earlier point, like where it's like it brings in these like small little communities, but like, is that becoming mainstream easier because someone like me who doesn't even believe that is still seeing the content? I'm curious what you all think. Do you know what I'm talking about? Was anyone else seeing the video?
I agree.
She's
Even during the floods, like especially a hill country, where Texas State is right down the road from that horrific event. And I guess being in close proximity, it kind of hits home. And what's sad and it's unfortunate is that these platforms are using people's real pain and real heartache against them, and kind of deterring of the fact of like, let's help these communities. Let's find an answer, whereas we're so quick to kind of harp on the bad or trying to find something bad that happened. So yeah, I agree that platforms have definitely done that, where at that point you've never heard of anything like that before.
Yeah, I definitely think social media platforms have a great way of bringing communities together, but I also think they can very easily tear communities apart. Like, for instance, with the floods that happened here recently, social media brought a lot of communities together to help support the families that lost their loved ones and help raise money to help rebuild the community. But then there's other things that can be posted, like a big topic is fake news. There can be fake news that is spread easily, that can very easily just tear a community apart and make everyone turn on each other and go to war with each other.
Yeah, and I think with how we were discussing AI, I think it's a lot easier to spread that misinformation, especially with the people that have trouble deciphering what's AI and what's real, because they see something and they truly do think that's real, and they see video evidence because of AI, and so I think misinformation is getting a lot harder to fight, just based off all the different ways you can spread it.
Definitely. With that being said, Angel had a pretty good question. He said, what about the younger generations that already grew up in these online cultures? Do you think they are more aware of AI since they have been online more?
I saw a comment earlier. It was Abigail. She was talking about how her little sister kind of proof checks videos to see if it's AI, and she's in Gen Alpha. And she says she's always able to. I'd say the way that we understand like our phones and our technology better than like our older generations, I think it'll kind of become like that with AI, where the younger generations are able to recognize it more. Yeah,
definitely. But at the same time, like AI has been around since we were kids, and it's only gotten more and more advanced to the point where we can't even tell that it's tricking us. So I think with these younger generations, as they start to grow older and these social media platforms and AI becomes more advanced, they'll eventually not be able to tell the difference between what's real and what's fake.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to go back real quick to what we talked about, how like misinformation and stuff like this can spread real easy, and it's really easy to believe kind of everything that we see. I know there was a comment, but it's like a long ago, but somebody said that it's kind of like an echo chamber. Like you kind of like, especially with the algorithm these days, like you just kind of you get put in this one corner of social media, and then you're just kind of stuck there, and you hear a lot of just like all the opinion. There you go, you found it. And everybody just has these like same opinions as you. Usually your opinions are not really challenged thanks to the algorithm, because it's just going to push stuff that you want to see more, because obviously then you'll stay on the platform more as well. So the platform will profit from like feeding you information that you want to hear, and then your beliefs were never challenged, and you're just end up believing kind of everything you see. I just wanted to add that because I saw a comment that like made me think.
I think a big thing about misinformation is that a lot of the misinformation that people get, they want to believe it, so they're not going to go further. You see something that you agree with, and you're not going to go further and investigate it because you like that. You like that you think it's true. And a lot of people end up believing something that's false. And then it's like, they might blame AI and be like, oh, you're wrong. And, it's just like, gets really messy.
But I feel like eventually, like how like everything is going on, I think it is people's responsibility to discern the information for themselves. They need to learn to find that information and actually delve deeper into like every issues instead of believing everything wholeheartedly from face value. I think that's like a real danger of like how misinformation is being spread around right now.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I also think it's the platform's responsibility as well. Platforms have such a heavily influence. They have thousands of millions of people on each platform. Now we're seeing that TikTok has AI like generated videos on their video like feed. I know Pinterest, like if the picture is altered with an AI, it kind of signals that it is. So I'm seeing platforms start labeling AI content. There's less laws and regulations on AI than there is the food that we eat every day. There's more laws and regulations on the content we consume every day. So I feel like it also is the platform's responsibility because they have such an influence.
Yeah, for sure.
Ryan, it looks like you had something you wanted to add.
Well, I will say Marina did like piggybacking off that. It is crazy to think about how like advanced AI has gotten and it's more rapid nowadays. And it's very interesting to think about because like years ago, AI was just like a little short, like small thing. It was like still around when we were younger, but nowadays it's just more advanced and it's getting more advanced and advanced. I do think like laws nowadays are like trying to catch up with how rapid and how misinformation from AI is starting to spread. And I also think that platforms like labeling the content as potential AI is like helping like address that. But I think that's like really interesting.
I think your point is spot on. Like the regulations can't keep up with the pace at which technology is accelerating. And so I wonder, Ryan, is that even possible? A, and then B, like what's the consequence? Like, do platforms push more AI content because it's more like profit generating for them, or like where's the balance? Because we do know these are profit generating economic machines.
I think it's like due to how fast it's processing and how quick and easy it is actually to like put AI content out there compared to like recording a video yourself and like doing your own research. I think it's like it's just a rapid speed that it's just honestly it's like hard to catch up with, and I don't think it'll like stop anytime soon. And it's hard for like these lawmakers to make regulations on it due to like how broad it is. And with like Emily says, like it's like getting too advanced, and I see how it's not a good thing, and like it's just it's way too advanced, and I'm not catching up myself.
Yeah, I definitely think with the lawmakers, I mean, we see a lot of them are a little older, and I think just they don't really understand AI. I mean, we saw this lawsuit with TikTok where, you know, the CEO was brought in, and there were a lot of things that the lawmakers were talking about that really like didn't make sense. I mean, we saw a lot of clips on TikTok of like them asking
They're
something.
not on the platform. They have no idea what they're
They have no clue. And I think that's why it's so hard for them, because it's like, how are they supposed to monitor and create regulations on something they just fully do not understand?
I think that's where the younger generation has to step up and kind of use our voices in a sense to like, hey, protect us. And like, we're the only ones that are going to be able to be using this now. Like lawmakers now barely even use TikTok. That was a big thing, that the TikTok ban was a big topic. And so many of these young people started speaking out, and we were able to get it back in a sense. And so, yeah, I think that's where the younger generation starts to come into play.
So Amani says, I think the lack of regulation is intentional. Possibly. I do think it's happening too fast for them to regulate. So I think that is like a double-edged sword. But I'm curious what you think about this, because Austin also asked this question. Do you think these platforms and users will ever be able to work together to get good enough at detection systems on AI and its misinformation? And my initial question was actually in my head was one like Amani, which is like, do they want to, or like, do they want to feed us a certain kind of content depending on like whatever their, you know, directions or interests are? What do you think?
It may seem a little negative. Oh, it's my bad.
Go ahead.
That's good. I asked a good question. Jump in.
Maybe I'm being a little bit negative on this part, but like I think whether or not they're gonna make a good profit off of it is the only reason they will ever regulate something like that. At the end of the day, like most people want to make money. Like look at like Instagram, TikTok, even Twitter. There's so many ad spaces. People want to make a profit, and if there's no way to make a profit off of something, then they're probably not going to find a way to like regulate it if it's like detrimental to like money.
Who else wanted to jump in? You're Reagan.
I think social media is really big about just keeping their numbers up. So these platforms will feed whatever they can to keep your attention and keep you coming back to their networks, whether that be AI videos or fake content. They don't really have any regulations against preventing that kind of stuff. from being posted. And they certainly do have some regulations, but I don't think they really enforce them as hard as they should be.
And I'll say real quick, isn't it like almost always, like we know that misinformation is wrong, but always somebody's benefiting from it spreading. So like somebody's always going to want to push it, even though like it's bad for the general public, but there's always somebody, almost always somebody who benefits from the misinformation spreading, or like people believing misinformation.
I completely agree. Kind of changing gears here a little. Why do you guys think users today want to stay below the radar?
Well, I think just how digital footprints like just backtrack. I think most want to stay under the radar because of like how it can like low-key affect you in a job market as well. And you know, your employer could just like dig up something that like a selfie of you that may or may not be like that appropriate, I guess, to say the least. But most users just want to stay under the radar just because it's like privacy. Social media like allows like bits of like your public and private life to be on that platform for like a while, like forever basically. And it's just very interesting.
Yeah, I talked about this with y'all before. I know in like recruiting for sports, my coach told me this. There are like specific people that are hired to just do full background checks on all of your like social medias, and like trying to see if you've ever posted anything that might be problematic. And I'm sure it's the same way in like the job in the workforce. I'm sure there's people that will, you know, kind of try to find all your socials and see what you're posting and just kind of get a good eye on you. So I think it's important that not only you just watch your digital footprint, but also, you know, staying below the radar and not like like getting famous for the wrong things, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I think that these publics and platforms definitely ask for a lot more than they should. Like every time I try to create a new social media or I go into my social media account, me to enable location services, allow them to have access to my contacts, allow them to have full access to my camera roll. And I'm like, what do you need all this information for? And thinking back to when Facebook actually had a lawsuit because they got caught selling people's public informations, I think that's a big reason why a lot of people are wanting to stay below the radar, because you can't trust these high up CEOs that are creating these platforms. You don't know what they're going to do with this information. You don't know what they're doing behind the scenes. And it's kind of just a dangerous game to play.
This reminds me, Reagan and everyone else, of how everyone was using Google Incognito, thinking all of their data was super secure and super private, and it was so much better than just using their regular search. And then they lost this lawsuit because it turns out they were actually storing the data, and it was super easy to retrieve and to identify users with it. And I mentioned at the beginning of this chat that we were having that Nancy Bain had put out this recent article this month in Social Media and Society about like, how's it going? It's bad. Well, one of the arguments that she makes in that piece is like, we still don't know where all of this data is eventually going to go or how it will be used long term. Like we don't, like, you pass on, and like, where does that go? Even if they, put your account, into hibernation, that's not the right term, but, even if they sunset your account, where does that material go? Like, what is it being used for? And we know that companies like Meta are full on using AI to train their systems on content creators that are on their platforms. We know that about a year ago, they put forth all these like fake influencers from the Meta official account. But it's like, where does this data go? And I hope that didn't like derail you, but like this idea of like, yes, but like also like, we don't know what they're doing with it. What do you think of all of that?
I agree. In a previous class, probably last semester, we talked about where they store this data. When we go on like a website or we're trying to like prove that we're not a robot, and it's like identify the street lamp or a stop sign or the car. A a company partners with another company, and those actually train the self-driving cars. I didn't know that until I went into this class. So we just think, oh, this is like a gimmick. This is really isn't anything. But in actuality, they're using that data that we are putting in to train an AI self-driving car.
That's like very interesting, and that was a very great point from you, Marina. But I like want to switch topics a little bit off of this and move on to our next topic. So I read an article by Satoya Sojin that explains that how digital platforms are no longer like neutral spaces for connection, with like how they were just simple of like, oh, just reaching out to my friends. It's changed to like bigger ecosystems of like more connections, more like nicher interests. And I just want to ask the question of Sojin argues that platforms are no longer neutral spaces, and I just want to ask, do y'all agree or disagree that it's just no longer like a simple platform?
I feel like you think that it's not, like, we don't really truly have like a neutral space anymore. Like everywhere is just like think about Instagram back in the day. Like Instagram used to be like people that you solely knew and you only see their content. Now we have Reels, then we have like the Explore page. Even like the main page that we used to see other people's posts, we don't see who we follow's posts. We just see like whatever they want to push upon us and other more like popular like creators instead of like people we actually know.
Definitely, yeah. Going back to the Stone Age when I first downloaded Instagram, the only content I would see was from people I followed. And I feel like nowadays I don't ever see content from the people I follow. It's all just what the algorithms want to show me, whether that be news videos or, in the worst cases, Instagram had a era a while ago where they were only showing like violent videos, and I'm like, this is not what I want to be seeing on my social media platforms. So I feel like that aspect of neutral spaces kind of just vanished, and it's all just about trying to keep you on the platforms by showing you what they think will keep you there.
I think that's like, oh, sorry. You want to go, Donovan?
And just Reagan, to add a little syrup to your pancakes, man. I just I think that like the whole idea of social media has turned into like going from these neutral spaces where you could just kind of like share your life with people and like, you know, show your friends what you're up to like this whole entertainment system that people rely on, and to the point where they're addicted and they're like getting their, you know, their dopamine rushes from like TikTok. And, you know, it used to be just like, hey, this is what I'm doing today, guys. I'm gonna go get ice cream with my daughter. And now it's like people are spending hours and hours on their phone just scrolling and things that really like have nothing to do with them, that they probably don't even care about, and kind of just, you know, this idea of like rotting their brains or whatever. But yeah.
Definitely. Somebody yesterday, I think it was you, Marina, had a good counter argument about Be Real trying to bring back the neutral spaces. If you want to talk a little bit about that, Marina.
Yeah, of course. I was just about to say, I feel like we lost this form of like authenticity. We lost that original self, where these platforms we post on Instagram, on story, like it's so curated. We go out to brunch and we have to take a picture, be like, oh, well, this person's going to like it or whatever. And I feel like Be Real really tried to hone in that authenticity of everybody's like regular day, where Instagram used to be something that was creative and fun. And now it's very curated and manicured, and you have to look a certain way, or when you're scrolling, you feel like insecure because your life isn't that way. And so that's where I feel like we kind of lost like these neutral spaces, because even if you go onto Instagram and you got tired of that, you go onto TikTok, well, it's the same thing now. It's not this neutral space anymore. It all kind of merged together.
I think what was that? I think Austin asked a good question here. He says, "Do you think having a neutral space on social media will ever be a realistic possibility again?" And I definitely agree. I think it all depends on how you use it. You can still use Instagram and TikTok, not so much, but maybe a little bit, to just like have that inner circle, your friend group or your loved ones, and connect with them in their lives. I mean, that's how like my parents use it. I mean, they don't ever really scroll on their phones. They're kind of just like liking their friends' posts on Facebook and whatnot.
I love everything that you're saying, but Izzy's comment made me think of what Marina was saying. But even Be Real got changed to be curated when they allowed the retakes of pictures. And even before that, I was having student conversations in class about how like people would be driving down the road and then their 13-year-old would be like, "You have to stop, there's a park sign and I need my Be Real." And so like they would curate it, and you'd hear stories of like, oh, the notification would come up, but like my hair wasn't done, so I wouldn't take it that day. And so I think this idea of like authenticity online maybe was gone a long time ago. But to go back to kind of like Donovan's question or that conversation about like, could it happen? I wonder if that's what Substack is doing right now. We're seeing kind of like this insurgence of Substack, which for me feels like early, late 1990s blogging, where we all had like our own little thing, and it was like, don't you dare get anything else. Like, I'm gonna follow who I follow, and that's all I want to see.
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
What's a Substack? I've never heard of this.
Substacks are like basically like this blogger channel where you have to subscribe to it, and you only see the content you subscribe to, and people are writing like long form blogs again. And I think that this is like, I predicted 4 years ago that this would be the inevitable outcome of people getting tired of being forced to see things they don't want to see. And I think AI is only exacerbating this. So I think these kind of like old school techniques of like blogging, or like, here's like this like niche group that I've like put only the people I want in so that we can all be in a container together to talk. I could see people very much moving in that direction.
Yeah, I think with all the different social media apps, it's kind of like the reason why it feels so, curated is because they're all adopting each other's, like different ways of getting media. Like TikTok started doing videos, and then, Instagram was like, oh, okay, let's start doing reels. And even like Twitter. I mean, Twitter was meant to be a place where you just share your thoughts and there's no pictures or anything. But now it's becoming like, they're seeing success in other social media apps. So like, oh, let's incorporate that into our app. And so everything's becoming kind of the same. Like you can go from Instagram to TikTok and almost like get the same type of content. And I feel like it's becoming where social media apps are less niche, and they're just kind of these broad, like, it's just, that makes sense.
I 100% agree with this. I miss the days when Instagram was photos and TikTok was video, or Tumblr was photos, and you stayed in your lane because it made them more interesting, where now they all feel the same to me. Someone else was going to jump in, I saw.
I was going to say real quick about going back to what Dr. Stewart was saying about how like you just want to see who you follow. I don't know if you noticed, but like I think some of these platforms have these like tabs where you can just go to the people that you follow, like your friends. Like TikTok, for example, has like you could just go scroll what your friend says, and still it gives you these like suggestions, like people you may know or like people you may want to follow. And I'm like, I'm here to see what my friends are posting, not get suggestions of who I should follow, kind of. Like even those spaces that are made just for you to see what your friends are doing are now like being flooded with other accounts too. So there's like no real space of just seeing what you want to see, if that makes sense. I don't know if y'all have noticed that.
Yeah. And
Sorry.
I know you got it.
I was just saying, Aviana's comment, realistically, each app is the same, just different fonts. Like, it's real. I feel like there was a major shift when TikTok became the major platform where every other app wanted to become like TikTok. That's where we saw the rise of Instagram Reels, or even YouTube Shorts, where YouTube originally was just long form horizontal videos. Now, even Facebook has a For You page in a sense. So I would agree with her.
Although TikTok, I think, stole from YouTube, because when YouTube started, you could only post I think it was 3 minutes, like, and then it became 10 minutes, and so that long form culture took time to transpire, and so TikTok kind of like snapped from that.
Well, actually, to be more correct, it was actually Vine. Like, does
It
it
was fine.
It was Vine. It was Vine. Vine had 6-second videos, and then it got shut down in like 2016, and then Musical.ly
yeah,
popped up,
true,
and then
fair.
Musical.ly turned into TikTok, which I feel like everybody's reheating everybody's nachos at this point.
Great line.
All right, shifting gears here a little, I wanted to talk about how platforms and publics interact during major global events. For instance, when something big is happening, social media becomes one of the main places people turn for their information, but it also raises questions about what we're actually seeing. Between the algorithms pushing content, the rise of misinformation, and the way users engage with posts, platforms play a huge role in shaping how we understand events in real time. So my question would be, how are social media platforms distinguishing between important news versus just sensational content?
I think that it kind of goes with like old like news programs that they kind of want the things that are going to create interactions. That's what they're going to put as like the front page of the newspaper. And so I think we see a lot of like, things that I don't know how to put this. We're getting like more content of things that people or news organizations might think we want to see than what we really should be seeing.
I'd agree. Probably like 30 years ago, or even like 50 years ago, I feel like the public has lost trust in news outlets. You can go into a certain group and you say you watch one news outlet and they're like, oh, like they kind of look down on you, and it's vice versa. Whereas back then you had a little bit more trust in it because it wasn't so polarized. I feel like with the rise of social media and because of these niche groups and these more polarized groups, it kind of lost trust in news outlets, and even those news outlets became polarized.
A quick follow-up question I had to that is, what responsibilities do they have in limiting this misinformation? For instance, like AI deepfakes or manipulating footage during these moments?
Maybe Matilda can sit that one on as well. Do you need him to repeat it?
No, I'm curious.
But I almost don't want to move to that yet. I think that this is interesting. I think the fact that we see, breaking events happening online is a fundamentally environment. Whoever has the dog is amazing. You should just invite them up. Let them come sit on your lap. I love it.
Is that you, Matilda?
Yeah, I was gonna say I think the dogs hate AI or something.
Let's get their opinion.
And so what we would describe is that like social media has become this like hybrid media environment where like there isn't one genre. Like Marina was talking about these, very specified, curated types of programs. I feel like I'm losing people, and I hope that you're not losing. I hope it's not my internet. But what about it makes that change how publics start to react in these environments? Doesn't mean that anyone can be a journalist. Like this idea of like citizen journalism on the ground. Like we saw the Ukraine war really being broadcast by its citizens before it was being broadcast by major outlets. So like, what does it mean fundamentally as a society to be able to do that? And then what does it mean for an algorithm to amplify that content for like potentially good reasons, but also not good reasons? And so I kind of want to hear some more discussion by your team about that.
Honestly, I think that, the rise of other people like sharing those stories is a good thing. Like I'm thinking like maybe a couple weeks or months ago about like the ICE incident in Minnesota, like how we were getting a lot of like boots on the ground like journalism going on, and we were getting so much information, even though like a lot of the times like major platforms were kind of being like, oh, this is happening, but then there's like 10 other people who are like, no, I was actually there, here's what actually happened, to like get the story straight. So there is a good, like, you know, benefits for, you know, I guess citizen journalism.
How do we get to a place where one corner of the internet watches a video and they have one very specific take, and another corner of the internet watches the exact same footage, and it doesn't matter what it's about, but they watch the exact same footage and they have a woefully different take, and yet we're watching the same video? So what does that say to us? Because it used to be, and I'm talking like 20, 30, 40 years ago, that we would agree on what we were seeing, agree on what was true or factual. And I think that there has been a bit of I think platforms play a role in changing this perception. I'm curious what you all think.
I think it's just got to do with a little bit of bias. It's kind of what they want to believe and the way they want to take it. I don't know. I feel like maybe 20, 30 years ago, you were getting a few different news sources giving you the same type of news, and it was definitely still biased. But I feel like nowadays they kind of have to be biased because they want to get more, you know, interactions with people. And the best way to do that is just stirring up controversy. And then people are just, you know, they want to believe things in the way they want to believe them because they want it to align with their ideology. And so they're seeing the same video, you show it to two people, but one person will be like, oh, you know, they shouldn't have driven and tried to hit that officer. And then the other person's like, oh, well, you know, they were just trying to get out of the way or something. And it's just different opinions that are, you know, all mixed up.
Yeah, like this was way into the chat, but Javier actually quoted George Orwell. I'll see if I could pin that, or where he quoted, "The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears, and it was their final, most essential command." And I feel like because we've become so wrapped up in our own social media and these groups within our own social media, we try to tie into Donovan's point where we don't want to believe something that we see, or we're not agreeing because we don't want it to be true or not. And where that wasn't the case, like Dr. Shu has said, that was 30 years ago.
I'm sorry, there's so many comments. I cannot find that one, but I believe you and I'm glad that you read it, and I'm sorry I can't pin it. I remember watching the news as a kid because the news, there was no choice. Everyone in the family watched the news because that's all that was on and there was only one TV. But you didn't ever watch a segment where people didn't all have different opinions. And so I do wonder if we get that same, like, look, there's 4 people sitting in a room who all disagree on this topic in the same way on social media. What do you think?
I almost think that just naturally happens.
Continue.
Sorry. I feel like it just happens naturally. Like when I look into one, sometimes I'll go down like just pipelines of like, you know, an ideology I don't even really agree with and just like see what they think. Because it's good. It's just like you get other opinions and it's kind of fun sometimes. You're like, wow. And you get really deep and you're like, wow, this is crazy stuff. Like, what am I looking at? And I think in the comment sections, it's either someone like disagreeing or it's someone like fully agreeing. And I think it kind of happens naturally where we see a lot of disagreement just in these platforms that, you know, people are sharing their own opinions on. And it used to be you would have to schedule them to go on a TV show, but now it's like you could just do that in the comments and it's a little easier that way.
I have an example for this that's, just bear with me when I explain this. Have you seen these videos where it kind of starts with something a little bit controversial and then they go into like talking against it kind of? And then like people in the comments are like, oh, I thought my algorithm failed me for a minute there. When it's like something so exactly opposite of what like you believe and what your algorithm is about. And then people are like you're kind of freaked out the first second you see, she's like, why is this on my like For You page? Like, I don't believe this at all. And then like it makes sense at the end when like this person's actually just clipping this video and like they have the same like ideology as you. And then people in the comments are like, whoa, I thought there for a second, like my algorithm failed me. And it goes back to the echo chambers we talked about earlier, how like you're just kind of like in this own corner of social media.
They don't
like social media.
she is pet sitting right now, so that's fine. Invite them up. Please continue.
So I'm sorry. Yeah, that's just all I was saying is like, in the end, we're just in this like, we're surrounded by the people we mostly agree with all the time. So I don't think we're really being challenged. Like our thoughts are not really being challenged on social media the same way I think they would be in person, because you're just naturally surrounded by people with different thoughts when you go out in public.
We were talking about that in class on Monday. Like you get a group of 30 of us together in a room. You expect that you're not all going to agree or have the same viewpoints or values or belief systems. Like that comes to be an expectation. But when we're online, that expectation almost disintegrates. Donovan, I love this idea of like you're going down deep dives down things you don't believe, because I think that is really productive. Although sometimes I find myself like at the point of like, if I starting to believe this, I should probably extract myself for a moment. I don't know if you've had that experience where it's like, if you hear something enough, it does start to sound real. So Emily asked this really interesting question. Do you think it's healthy for everyone to be constantly sharing their own opinions all the time? I'm curious, because it used to be that like people who had expertise would share their opinions, right? I'm thinking of journalists, academics, people who had really studied and looked into issues and come to kind of like a weighted decision, where now the ease at which we can share our opinions is, you record, you hit the record button and you post it. And so there's not always weight behind those decisions, or there's not always weight behind those opinions. So what do you think about this?
I think it's like a mix, low key. Like sometimes I feel like people just say stuff to just say it on the internet or just to be controversial. But then again, it is like a good thing to like have open discussions about certain topics or certain ideas and everything. But then again, like I'm someone who frequently uses Twitter, and Jesus Christ, it's like a war zone every single day about something else. Like literally the other day, I know this is very off topic, but like there's an artist called Chappell Roan, and she got in trouble for something, and like I don't know, like I don't even think she was like fully involved with it. I don't know what's going on. See, that's what just how information spreads, and everybody's just like, oh, we need to cancel this girl, and they just keep making like more think pieces over one little act, and everybody just like fighting over everything. But I'm not gonna cancel her. Maybe I'll get in trouble for that in a couple of years. I don't know. I'm just trying to get those tickets soon.
I think it's all about your intent in which you're sharing your opinion. There's some people that just share their opinion to get a reaction from people, and if that's the reason you're sharing your opinion, I think you just should keep your thoughts to yourself. Because if you're just trying to start an argument, then if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all.
However, have we not talked in this class about like we're in an attention economy, which means fundamentally people don't care if it's true. The algorithm doesn't care if it's true. The more shocking, the more likely it is to gain attention. So, I mean, I think people are actually using shock and horror as a strategy. Do you see this? Like I fully, and I think even Matilda's example of like where they show you something that is outside of your wheelhouse, and then you're hooked. You're watching it a bit longer than you might have already. Is this not a strategy?
It's definitely a strategy, I would say. I've seen it multiple times of like I get something that I don't personally believe in, but it's like with like how short of like you have to get somebody's attention span nowadays in social media. I think it's like a very interesting thing that sometimes content creators are using like opinions that are like a little more like harsher and not what everybody personally believes in to like drag this conversation to get more engagement. And I think that's like a very interesting thing nowadays to see, and it's just unfold, just witnessing it.
Yeah, I want to jump to Emily's question again. I think it is healthy, because as long as you're not like spreading misinformation and misleading people, I think it is important to like exercise your First Amendment right, and your opinion might not be always popular, but at least it gives maybe people a different perspective or another insight into a situation.
That is the power of sharing. Remember week 1, we talked about like, why do people do this? And it's exactly that. It's like, it gives us agency. It gives us more power. It gives us more, ability and authority over our own voices. So yeah, I think that's a healthy take, Donovan. There's a lot of questions. I don't know if you want to address more or if you want to move into your conclusion. Up to you.
Yeah, just like to jump into conclusion and to tie everything together. I think it is healthy. I think when we hear each other's perspectives, because no one lives life the same as the next person. We all have our different experiences. We all grew up differently. We all view things differently. And I feel like bringing more different perspectives to the table is helpful for society and to help people feel included. And I also think that's a double-edged sword, to the sense where if we're on like these platforms, it's easier to say something mean or harmful to others because we kind of use the screen as a mask, and we feel like it's not so much of a confrontational thing where we just type it and oh, it's done, where time back where it stays there forever. And so many people can get canceled or can get sports things taken away from them. And so I think it is healthy that we listen to others. We learned that in grade school growing up. Like, we listen to the others, be respectful, be mindful. And so, yeah.
Thank you. We appreciate you. Big round of applause for Agency 1. Starting us off with a bang. It was wonderful to hear all of your takes and to see all your presentation. I know you've been working hard as a team, and it's lovely to see it all come together. Matilda, any last thoughts for this team?
I was just going to say, really good job. I love seeing y'all work together as a team. You had some great questions, great comments, and thank you to the audience. We had really, really great engagement from the audience. So thank you to everybody who's watching from home and helping us do this show. Yeah, really, really, really good job. I'm very impressed.
Me too. And yes, thank you to the audience. There were so many comments and questions. I couldn't even find most of them, but I was reading them when I could. So thank you for being such great audience members. We are back in class on Monday, and we will be back on live on Wednesday. I believe we have Agency 3 that is coming in, and we'll be talking about the nested precarities of creative labor. Have a wonderful day. We're getting a lot of love. Just so you know, before I get rid of it, I'll show you all the love that you're getting. Lots of really interesting and good lucks. So well done. Well done. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you soon. Bye.